All right, folks, we're back for another Twin Peaks episode review. This episode is called The Black Widow, and it is episode 12 of season 2. And after this episode, we have 10 more to go to conclude season 2 and the original run of the series, so we're counting down. All right, let's get started. Bobby Briggs shows up at Ben Horn's office. Ben is still kind of out of his mind. He's apparently stacked a bunch of furniture and other random items up onto his desk and to create some kind of monolith or something. I don't know if it's some bizarre attempt at feng shui. And Bobby reminds Ben of why he's here and says he has a great admiration for Ben Horn, and Ben says admiration is for poets and dairy cows. Whatever that means. I think Bobby just thinks he's just stumbled into the most bizarre job interview of all time with the kind of stuff that Ben's talking about. Ben wants Bobby to follow Hank Jennings to chronicle his existence, essentially get some dirt on him. So he gives him a camera and sends him off to play private detective. Bobby leaves, and little Ginger Riding Hood comes screaming out of her bedroom in lingerie, so not sure what that's about. Apparently, maybe she's there at the honeymoon suite. Dale's interested in buying some property, and no, not too surprising. Seems like Twin Peaks is where he sees himself retiring to. Flips a coin, and it lands on the property that actually has something to do with the plot. Coincidence? The real estate lady basically says it's not the most wholesome place, and it's a kind of a place where a lot of human misery gravitates. So, yeah, but it sounds like perfect for Dale, according to him. Hey, we get to see a younger Molly Shannon making an early TV appearance before Saturday Night Live fame. She's Little Nicky's case manager and gives them a bit of a rundown on Little Nicky. Apparently, he's been the victim of random misfortunes, and Dick starts to kind of wonder that Nicky may not be exactly what he seems. The Dougie Milford dies of a heart attack while fooling around with Little Ginger Riding Hood. Mayor comes in and says his brother was killed by sex, basically. This gal's a murderer. She says that she's cursed, so maybe there's some truth to it. Hawk tries to act like he's Mr. Cool and Mr. In charge, and that blows up in his face when Andy opens the door. Is this the Black Widow that the title of the episode is referring to? Maybe, maybe not. At the high school, Nadine wants to join the wrestling team. Beats up Mike, who's the captain of the wrestling team, though, and during their impromptu matches, wanting to know if he will go out with her. And apparently, that's still a horrifying notion to him. James, back at the Evelyn's place, meets someone who says that he's her brother, Malcolm, who lets James in on the real story about what goes on with his sister and her husband. Basically, he smacks her around. She goes and breaks one of his vehicles or something that he owns that he loves to get revenge for it, and yada, yada, yada. But something tells me that this guy isn't the most trustworthy person on the planet. I don't know. Maybe it's just in the face, but yeah, I don't know if I'd take him completely for his word. Dale visits Dead Dog Farm, finds out that some drug-dealing shenanigans have been taking place here. Some baby laxative and cocaine, so the baby laxative used to cut the cocaine. Time to report this to the authorities. Dick apparently does not know how to change a tire and needs the manual to do so. Not too surprising. Little Nicky, who's in his matching outfit, I'm assuming from Horn's department store, is driving Dick mad with his antics. And when the jack falls out from underneath the vehicle, Dick almost succumbs to a random misfortune of his own and starts to wonder, what have we gotten ourselves into with this seemingly innocent little orphan child? Colonel Riley stops by the sheriff's department to ask some questions about Major Briggs's disappearance where Dale was on the scene. He asks if any wildlife was in the area, like owls, and Dale confirms that yes, their owls were spotted. So the owls again are brought up. The monitors, he says that are pointed at deep space, but the messages related to Dale Cooper, which he inquires about prior to this, were actually transmitted from the forest itself, not from outer space. So that message was being beamed out from some location within the woods to, the entity that manifested, or, in front of Dale in the form of the giant. Dale asks the colonel if it has anything to do with a place called the White Lodge, which we heard Major Briggs mention prior and that Hawk expanded upon in the previous episode. And the colonel, of course, tells him that's classified. But at least lets us know that at least one branch of the armed forces, that being the Air Force, has been investigating this place for some time. And Garland Briggs's disappearance has implications that go so far beyond national security, and the Cold War seems like a case of the sniffles. So yeah, some pretty heavy stuff there. Something's going on. But the military's actually had dedicated a branch of its operation to investigating what's going on in Twin Peaks. So yeah, it's a pretty cool scene. James has fixed the vehicle up that Evelyn purposely broke. I don't know if it must be the Jaguar that we'd seen in the previous episode. He mentions what her brother says. She mentions, she basically says, mind your own business. He tells her he knows what it's like to be lonely, or blah, blah, blah. They start making out, unsurprisingly, with the tension was in the air between them from the get-go. And then they stop when the husband shows up. And maybe this is the Black Widow. Or maybe we have two Black Widows in this episode. But, yeah, James, you are a fool. Bobby shows up at Great Northern. Audrey and him have some banter, and then he goes in to show the photos of Hank Jennings and company, which we will see later. To Ben, Audrey goes to her little spying place and watches what's going down. And, yeah, Ben is continuing down his path to madness by... he's basically transforming into General Lee and thinks he's fighting the Civil War for real. Yeah, it's another one of those kind of oddball Twin Peaks things, but that side plot will continue for a while. Believe me, it gets more and more bizarre. Pete and Catherine Martell have breakfast. Martell being Pete's name, so she's Catherine Packard, but married name Martell. Having breakfast while Josie plays the maid or housekeeper. Catherine makes sure to antagonize her as much as possible, because Josie has no recourse other than to do as she's told, given she's being protected from Thomas Eckhart. Or at least she thinks she's being protected from Thomas Eckhart. And Pete, being the sweetheart that he is not too happy about Josie's treatment, or believes that Josie had any wrongdoing with Andrew's death. But that's just because he's just kind of a good-natured person and doesn't want to see evil in anybody. I mean, look who he's married to, and he's still stuck with her. Dale's chess move, in response to Wyndham Earle's latest play, or initial, I should say, the initial chess deal that he sent Dale, was posted in the classifieds, but Dale mentions that move, which he put into the classifieds to make it official, was already anticipated by Wyndham Earle by the second chess deal that he sent Dale that was accompanied by that cassette tape. So he's probably one of the few people that actually has a deeper understanding of how Dale's mind works, from a logical sense. So that is definitely makes him a more dangerous opponent in some regards than the elusive Bob, because Bob was kind of a loose cannon, just wanting to experience the thrills of murder and torture and anything like that, and to get kind of get high on that kind of emotional release that he absorbed as a parasite. So he was reckless, and he was easier to catch, given he was pretty arrogant and believing that he couldn't be caught. But Wyndham, as we'll find out, obviously he's using chess as a means to to play psychological warfare with Dale. That he's a little bit more difficult to deal with than the entity known as Bob. Dale says that despite his past, he'd like to have pretty much a domestic life with wife and family, retiring in Twin Peaks. Given the supernatural influence of the place like Twin Peaks, I'm not sure it would be my first choice for retirement, to say the least. No matter how good the coffee and pie is, I think I could probably find somewhere else to spend the rest of my days. Why not the San Fernando Valley in California, if you know what I mean? Wink, wink. Dale believes that the house that he visited, despite being, a representation of what possibly could, be a future for him and a family, has a direct connection with his troubles within the Bureau and the planted cocaine in his vehicle. So, he doesn't think it's a coincidence that his coin toss brought him to that place. And in order to confirm that his hunches and his words are rather accurate, Audrey shows up. She's taken the photos from her father's office that Bobby brought. Shows Dale that the pictures, obviously, and the conspirators that are taking part in his frame job are represented. So she did some good detective work. Definitely, her much more successful than her adventures at One-Eyed Jack's. But for however good she is a detective in that regard, she not very much common sense when she comes face to face with a guy that's with what appears to be a woman, but is obviously a guy dressed as a woman. To the point where she thinks that this is competition because Dennis Bryson is an agent of the FBI. So she's like, oh no, she's gonna move in on my man. So she goes and kisses Dale. But apparently Dennis, regardless of how he likes to dress, still has an interest in women, given his comments. So putting one pantyhose on at a time. Some funny banter there. Ed and Norma talk about the past over at the Double R, realizing, kind of that they, instead of, I think what, I don't know if this is something that I think Norma said in the first season, or maybe she says later, or both, but the long story short is that they basically should have just said to hell with what other people want, whatever people think, that they should put their own happiness before everything else and be together like they were always meant to be. Hank is obviously not too thrilled about this encounter. Dick confides in Andy that he believes that Nikki may in fact be the devil, or at least homicidal in the first degree. So Dick is convinced that little Nikki may be a manifestation of the devil himself, which goes to some funny investigations later on in trying to prove this point. Andy's, of course, is so gullible and naive that he'll buy into it without any mental or intellectual conflict going on within his brain. Doc Hayward tells Mayor Milford that his brother died of natural causes. Apparently, the mayor is not convinced by this analysis and these results, and is determined to see her brought to justice. And apparently, for some reason, in Twin Peaks, maybe redheaded girls are a rare commodity, and that somehow, given how rare they are, that every man that crosses past of them is, well, I guess Nadine's a redhead, but she's a nightmare. So, but I don't know, something about this girl has all these guys just eating out of her palm. And I recognize the actress. She was rather prevalent in, I believe, a lot of like teenage not dramas, but more lighthearted teenage dramas and comedies and whatnot in the 80s. She was kind of I think as a younger actress, she showed up in quite a few films, directed at 80s teens and whatnot. So I recognize her from that, but I don't know the actress's name off the top of my head, and I don't know if she was in after that. But I just recall her, being kind of someone that made quite a few appearances in films in the 80s. I'm not quite sure with the seeing her. She's not my type, that's for sure. Lucy is obviously not too happy about this kind of competition, especially with Andy in there, listening to every word she says, thinking, oh, we've been visited by a goddess or something. But yeah, Denise shows up at the Double R. Needless to say, she's let Ernie the Professor Niles know that he's in deep shit. Back at the Great Northern, in I'm assuming it's Dale's room, Ernie starts confessing, and I don't know if it's me, but I found that his whole dialogue in his confession, at the beginning, just hilarious. He's such a coward, and he just looks like such a putz with that, with his, I don't know if that's a dyed hair job or what. I mean, he just got that face, and I just had a really good belly laugh when he was talking about trying to make himself look like the innocent party in all of this. They held me at gunpoint. They beat me. They threatened me with physical violence. These men are animals. They'll stop at nothing. It's hilarious. So yeah, I guess it's time for old Ernie to play stool pigeon and get himself out of trouble. James is, I guess, looking through his tools after a hard day's work, and overhears Evelyn and her husband fighting. Malcolm shows up to stir the shit a little bit more and then kind of plant more ideas in James's head. I think he wants James to play the White Knight. I think more than anything, given his actions and the words he's been, and like I said, the ideas he's been planting in James's head. Though Evelyn, obviously, given her behavior, doesn't seem to come across as some innocent damsel by any means. But James is naive. What can you say? So we end the episode with Bobby and his mother at home talking about Major Briggs. Bobby tells her about the dream that his father had, and she talks about some stuff. Probably, a conversation that they've never had before, where they both kind of just talk to each other about how you have a unique individual and kind of strange individual, though lovable in the same way that Major Briggs is. And then with a kind of a crash of lightning or something, which could be significant, Major Briggs shows up dressed in some old aviator outfit and asking how long he's been gone. His wife says 2 days. And I'm not sure exactly what era that outfit is from, but I'm assuming it is World War I pilot costume. I'm not sure if it would be from the United States, German. I don't know. But from the looks of it, I'm assuming it's circa World War I. Not sure if this in itself has any significance as far as time travel, because Major Briggs says it seemed like he was gone for much longer, and this, as we know, was not the outfit that Major Briggs was dressed in when he vanished. He wasn't dressed in that outfit. Obviously, it had been ridiculous for him to go camping and fishing and dress like that. And I have no clue the significance of that. We'll have to go further in. I don't believe anything down the road in the season hints enough to really bring that back into the forefront as having any significance. I think it's just kind of a quirky Twin Peaks type of thing that they just decided that he show up in an aviator's outfit. So don't look too far into it in that case. Because remember, we had the whole thing about Major Briggs disappearing, and we had like lights, and we had a entity in a robe. So they played it out almost like it was an alien abduction. Like a flying saucer beamed down and pulled up Major Briggs into the ship and left. But then we realized that no, those signals are not coming from outer space, or coming from what basically from the White Lodge, even if Colonel Riley will not tell us that outright. It's pretty obvious that that place where the beings that, as Hawk said, govern the affairs of man and nature exists. That's the source from which this light and this energy, this entity, this being came from. So it's not a extraterrestrial type thing. So you may have come to some of those conclusions that might have been what it was, but no, that's just, yeah. So no, it's not aliens, at least in the classical sense of the term of Roswell and Area 51 and all that. So his wife asks him if everything is okay. He says no, not exactly. So obviously he's got some message or some information to deliver to our pals Dale and Harry and company about where he went and what he learned. So it's a good way to end the episode. We got the ending credits rolling with a visual of this stormy sky, lightning filled, these black clouds rolling across the sky. So pretty ominous foreshadowing of things to come, perhaps. Yeah, great way to end. One thing I've always noticed that most of the time, regardless of what takes place within the episode itself, and this one was a little thin on the stuff focused on the supernatural aspect and whatnot that I'm mainly interested in. They end the episodes with something that definitely gets you excited and interesting about what's going to happen. It keeps you coming back for more, gives you a good tease of what may be coming down in the next episode. So yeah, I like that. They always seem to, for the most part, they end episodes in that manner. So it's like they remember why we're here, what the main focus is of Twin Peaks, and that it's not, Nadine or and her silly antics, or Andy and Dick and their antics. It's it's the focus on these supernatural elements and this new villain that we've got that's entered the scene. So yeah, it's a good episode. I wouldn't rank it up there as one of the top episodes. It's kind of in the middle of the pack, but there's some like I said, as long as we're getting more information fed to us little by little, that's moving towards the conclusion, it's fine with me. Like I said, I just cover the whole thing because I'm doing this for people that are new to the show. I could skip a lot of what happened in this episode and just I could make it 10 minutes worth of just the facts and information related to the main case. But I wanted to do a thorough review of the whole thing. Given, like I said, I can't just assume that everybody's going to take my same approach and mindset to analyzing the episode. But yeah, I'll conclude this one, and I'll start watching episode 13, and I'll get that one all done and finalized, and get it all processed and uploaded onto the site sometime today. So you'll have a couple episodes coming up. Until then, folks, I'll see you next time in episode 13. Take it easy.